What if, in your quiet routine, you stumbled upon a life hanging by a thread, a creature in desperate peril no one else saw? Imagine the biting cold, the kind that freezes you to the bone. Now picture being out there, utterly alone, with no hope. That was the terrifying reality for Murphy, a tiny miniature schnauzer. Lost, cruelly abandoned, facing a brutal, unforgiving snowstorm on a desolate road. Every agonizing second was a fight for his last breath. But sometimes, in absolute darkness, a single, selfless act changes everything. This isn't just a rescue. It's about the unbreakable bond that forms when raw courage meets overwhelming need. This is the story of a hero, an ordinary person, and the life-altering transformation that unfolded that day. Share your own rescue moment in the comments below. We love hearing about the incredible connections you've made, the lives you've touched, and the bonds you've forged. Your stories inspire us all. This isn't just about the physical act of saving a life. It's about witnessing a profound rebirth, a miraculous journey from the depths of despair to the warmth and security of a forever home. You'll see the exact, breathtaking moment fear turns to trust, how a simple act of kindness can ignite an eternal bond, and how a shattered spirit can be made whole again. Get ready for a story that will not only warm your heart, but also remind you of the profound, immeasurable impact one person, one compassionate soul, can have on another. Hit that like button to support more incredible rescue stories. Subscribe to Eternal Bonds for life-changing content that celebrates courage and compassion. And share this with someone who truly loves dogs and believes in second chances. But before hope could even glimmer, before any warmth could penetrate the icy grip of despair, there was only one thing: sheer, overwhelming danger. A danger that Chris, a quiet librarian with a deep love for stories, was about to discover on his solitary drive home. The wind howled like a hungry, relentless wolf, tearing through the skeletal, barren branches of the roadside trees. It carried the sharp, metallic scent of impending snow, a bitter promise of what was to come, mingling with the damp, earthy smell of frozen ground. The sky above, a bruised canvas of deep grays and bruised purples, pressed down, heavy and ominous, threatening to unleash its full, icy fury at any moment. Chris, a librarian known for his quiet demeanor, his meticulous organization of knowledge, and his profound love for old, leather-bound books, was driving home, the rhythmic hum of his tires on the asphalt, the only sound breaking the oppressive, growing silence. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white against the cold plastic, as the first tentative flakes began to dance in his headlights, tiny white ghosts swirling in the beam, growing thicker by the second. The temperature was dropping fast, plummeting with an alarming speed, each passing minute a ticking clock against any fragile life caught out in the open. This wasn't just a cold night. It was a desperate, brutal fight for survival, a battle against the elements that few, if any, could ever hope to win. The air itself felt heavy, laden with the unspoken threat of the blizzard. Then, a flicker. A small, dark shape huddled by the guardrail, barely visible against the encroaching gloom and the swirling snow. Chris slowed his car, his brow furrowing in concentration, his eyes straining to make sense of the anomaly. It looked at first glance like a discarded pile of rags, forgotten and left to the mercy of the storm. But something about it, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor, a tiny movement against the backdrop of the swirling white, caught his eye. He pulled his car carefully to the shoulder, the tires crunching on the newly fallen snow, the engine a low, comforting rumble in the sudden, stark quiet. The air outside was a shock, biting and raw, instantly stealing the warmth from his face, making his breath plume in frosty clouds. He squinted, trying to make sense of the shape, his heart beginning to quicken its pace, a knot forming in his stomach. It was a dog. A tiny miniature schnauzer, no bigger than a loaf of bread, shivering uncontrollably, each tremor a visible testament to his desperate struggle against the cold. His fur, once a vibrant salt and pepper, was matted with mud and ice, clinging to his skeletal frame like a second frozen skin. His whiskers, usually so perky and inquisitive, were drooped and encrusted with frost, giving him an ancient, weary appearance. His eyes, wide with a desperate, silent plea, darted nervously, reflecting the harsh, fading light of the day, a visible tremor running through his entire small body. He was curled into the tightest ball imaginable, trying to conserve every last shred of warmth, but the effort was clearly futile. Each shallow, ragged breath he took misted in the frigid air, a fragile, fleeting sign of life against the overwhelming, suffocating cold. This was Murphy, a name that would soon become synonymous with courage, resilience, and the profound gift of a second chance. He was utterly alone, exposed to the merciless elements, and clearly on the very brink of collapse, his small body barely rising and falling with each labored breath. The snow began to fall heavier now, thick, wet flakes plastering themselves against the windshield, blurring the world into a white, indistinct haze. The wind picked up, howling with renewed ferocity, whipping around Chris, tugging at his coat, a stark, brutal reminder of the unforgiving conditions. He knew, with a chilling, undeniable certainty, that this little dog wouldn't last much longer out here. The road was deserted, a lonely ribbon of asphalt stretching into the white void. No other cars in sight, just the vast, empty expanse of the rapidly descending winter night. Murphy was a tiny, vulnerable island in a sea of unforgiving cold, a beacon of suffering in the desolate landscape. The thought of leaving him there, of simply driving away and letting nature take its brutal course, was unbearable. A weight settling heavily in Chris's chest, a moral burden he couldn't ignore. This wasn't just a dog in distress. It was a life hanging by the thinnest of threads, a silent, desperate cry for protection against an indifferent, cruel world. The seconds stretched, heavy with the weight of the impending storm, each one pushing Murphy closer to the edge, closer to the point of no return, his tiny whimpers barely audible over the wind's mournful cry. Chris took a deep, shaky breath, the cold air burning his lungs, a sharp, painful reminder of the urgency. He looked at the shivering, huddled form, then back at the inviting warmth of his car. The choice was clear, yet daunting, fraught with uncertainty. The darkness was almost complete now, swallowing the last vestiges of twilight, and the snow was a relentless, blinding curtain, obscuring everything beyond a few feet. Murphy, sensing Chris's prolonged presence, let out a tiny, almost inaudible whimper, a sound so fragile it seemed to be carried away by the wind before it even reached Chris's ears. It was a sound that spoke volumes of his desperate survival, a plea for hope in the face of overwhelming odds. Chris knew he had to act, and he had to act now, before it was too late, before the storm claimed another victim. He took another hesitant step forward, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs, a drumbeat of urgency in the frigid air. The faint whimper came again, a tiny beacon in the swirling snow, guiding him towards the impossible truth of a life teetering on the brink. Chris stood there, the biting wind whipping around him, tugging at his clothes, the snow already dusting his hair and settling on his eyelashes, making them heavy with frost. His mind raced, a whirlwind of thoughts battling against the raw, primal instinct screaming at him to help. He was just Chris, a librarian, a man who spent his days surrounded by the quiet comfort of books, meticulously organizing knowledge, not facing life or death situations on a deserted road in a raging snowstorm. He knew, with a chilling certainty, that he could simply get back in his car, turn up the heat, and drive away. No one would ever know he had seen the little dog. Countless others had probably driven past this very spot, oblivious or perhaps indifferent to the suffering huddled by the guardrail. But the image of those wide, terrified eyes, the sheer vulnerability emanating from that tiny, shivering form, it was a silent, desperate plea he wouldn't ignore. His heart pounded. This wasn't just a dog. It was a life teetering on the edge, a fragile spark that desperately needed protection. A second chance, a chance at a future. "Oh, you poor, poor thing," Chris murmured, his voice barely audible above the relentless howl of the wind, thick with genuine concern, a profound empathy welling up inside him. It was a split-second decision, a surge of pure, unadulterated compassion, overriding logic, overriding fear, compelling him to stop. His instinct, honed by years of quiet empathy and a deep understanding of the unspoken, told him he couldn't leave Murphy to face the elements alone. This was a moment of true courage, not the kind found in epic tales of knights and dragons, but the quiet, profound courage of an ordinary person choosing to make an extraordinary difference. He thought of his own warm home, his comfortable armchair by the fireplace, the hot tea waiting for him. And then he thought of Murphy, freezing, alone, with no hope, no shelter, no one. The contrast was stark, undeniable, a moral imperative that resonated deep within his soul. He moved slowly, deliberately, each step carefully placed on the slippery snow, keeping his voice soft, almost a whisper, a gentle melody against the storm's roar. "Hey there, little guy," he cooed, his words carried away by the wind, but his intention clear, radiating warmth and safety. Every gesture was open, unthreatening, trying to convey safety, not menace to the terrified animal. He knew that a scared, desperate animal could be unpredictable, could lash out in fear, but his compassion outweighed any personal risk. The chill of the air seemed to amplify the silence between them, broken only by the relentless whisper of the falling snow and the frantic beat of his own heart. He knelt down, slowly, carefully, mindful not to make any sudden movements that might startle the tiny schnauzer further, his gloved hands trembling slightly from the cold and the tension. Murphy, initially a frozen statue of fear, a rigid bundle of terror within the swirling snow, flinched violently at Chris's soft murmur, a low guttural growl rumbling deep in his chest, a desperate, primal warning. His small body tensed, every muscle coiled, ready to bolt, to flee, but there was nowhere to go, no escape from the encroaching storm, no safe haven. Yet, amidst the terror, a flicker of something, a hesitant tilt of the head, a slight shift in his wide eyes, suggested a fragile curiosity, a tiny, almost imperceptible crack in his impenetrable wall of fear. His eyes, though still wide with apprehension, held a glimmer of something else now, a desperate, almost imperceptible plea for help, for warmth, for an end to the suffering. He was torn between the primal urge to flee from this large, unknown human and the overwhelming desperate need for warmth, safety, and salvation, a silent battle playing out in his small, exhausted mind. Chris slowly extended a gloved hand, palm open, offering no threat, only the promise of gentle contact, a lifeline in the storm. "It's okay, little one," he whispered, his voice a soothing balm against the harsh wind, a beacon in the darkness. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help you. You're safe with me. I promise." He held his breath, waiting, every fiber of his being focused on the small dog, on the delicate balance of trust. The seconds stretched into an eternity, heavy with unspoken communication, with the weight of a life hanging in the balance. Murphy's tiny nose twitched, sniffing the air, assessing the strange, warm scent of this human, a scent that spoke of kindness, of hope. His ears, which had been flattened against his head in submission, perked slightly, then flattened again, a battle of instinct playing out in his small, exhausted body, a silent struggle between fear and a desperate longing for comfort. What would you do in this exact situation? Tell us below. Would you stop your car? Would you try to help? Or would the fear of the unknown, the danger of the storm, compel you to keep driving? We want to hear your thoughts, your own moments of decision, your own acts of courage. The air crackled with unspoken questions, with the weight of the moment. Would trust be found in this desolate place? Would Chris's courage be enough to overcome the deep-seated fear that had clearly been Murphy's constant companion for too long? Chris knew this was a critical, delicate moment. He couldn't force the rescue. Murphy had to choose to accept help, to take that leap of faith, to surrender to the promise of safety. He remained perfectly still, a silent, patient presence in the swirling snow, offering only kindness, only the promise of warmth and safety. He could feel the cold seeping into his own bones, numbing his fingers and toes, making them ache, but he wouldn't move. Not yet. Not until Murphy gave him some undeniable sign, some flicker of acceptance, some indication that his efforts were not in vain. Then, almost imperceptibly, Murphy's shivering lessened, just for a moment, a tiny pause in the relentless tremors, a fragile sign of hope. His eyes, still wary, seemed to hold Chris's gaze for a fraction of a second longer. A silent acknowledgement, a tentative connection. It was a tiny shift, a subtle change, but to Chris, it felt like a monumental breakthrough. A crack in the ice, a glimmer of light in the overwhelming darkness. It was a sign, a fragile thread of hope in the vast, cold darkness. He knew, with absolute certainty, that he couldn't leave this little dog. The commitment solidified in his heart, a warm, resolute certainty that filled him with purpose. "I'm not leaving you," Chris murmured, his voice firm, resolute, cutting through the wind, a promise whispered into the storm, a vow to a life he barely knew. "We're doing this. We're getting you out of here. You're coming with me. You're safe now." In that silent, tense standoff, Chris made his choice. A choice that would change both their lives forever. The rescue, the true act of salvation, was about to begin. With the unwavering decision made, Chris knew he had to act swiftly, yet with the utmost care and precision. The snow was now a full-blown blizzard, swirling around them in a blinding vortex, reducing visibility to mere feet, making every movement a challenge, every step uncertain. He couldn't just grab Murphy. The little schnauzer was clearly terrified, exhausted, and might bite out of fear or bolt into the dangerous unseen road, disappearing into the whiteout. Chris remembered a thick, soft blanket he kept in his car for emergencies, a comforting thought in the brutal cold. He moved slowly back to his vehicle, his eyes fixed on Murphy, who watched him with a mixture of lingering fear and that nascent, fragile curiosity, a tiny head cocked to the side. The car door creaked open, a blast of warm air momentarily escaping, carrying the scent of leather and warmth, then closed with a soft thud, sealing the warmth inside. Chris returned, clutching the blanket, its softness a stark contrast to the harsh, unforgiving environment. "Okay, little guy," he whispered, his voice low and soothing, trying to cut through the relentless roar of the wind to reach the terrified animal. "This is going to be okay, I promise. Just a little bit more." He carefully extended the blanket, unfolding it slowly, deliberately, creating a soft, inviting barrier between them and the harsh, icy ground. He spoke continuously, a gentle stream of reassurances, explaining his every move, his every intention, building a bridge of trust with his words. "See? Just a warm blanket. For you. To get warm. To be safe." He nudged it closer, just within Murphy's reach, then knelt again, patiently waiting, his breath pluming in the frigid air. The cold was seeping through his thick gloves, numbing his fingers, making them ache, but he ignored it. His focus was entirely, absolutely on the small, trembling life before him, on the monumental task of bringing him to safety. Murphy, though still hesitant, his small body trembling, finally nudged the blanket with his nose, a tiny, almost imperceptible sniff, a tentative exploration. It was a small victory, a breakthrough moment, a sign of burgeoning trust, a crack in the wall. Chris saw it, a flicker of hope in the dog's wide, wary eyes. But then, a sudden, violent gust of wind ripped through the air, carrying a sharp piece of debris from a nearby broken sign, sending it skittering dangerously close to Murphy. The schnauzer yelped, a high-pitched sound of pure terror, recoiling deeper into his tight ball, his fear reignited, his progress momentarily undone. Chris reacted instantly, instinctively shielding Murphy with his own body, the sharp edge of the debris narrowly missing his arm, a chilling reminder of the constant, unpredictable peril. "Whoa! Easy there, little guy," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surge, despite the near miss. "I've got you. You're safe. I won't let anything happen." This was the first significant obstacle, a stark, brutal reminder of the unforgiving environment and the fragility of life within it. Chris knew he needed to create a more secure, more enclosed space, something that offered a sense of true protection, a temporary sanctuary. He scanned the immediate area, his eyes piercing through the swirling snow, searching for anything, any small advantage, any piece of discarded material that could help. A few feet away, almost buried by the accumulating snow, he spotted a discarded, sturdy cardboard box, surprisingly intact, a small miracle in itself. It wasn't much, But it was better than nothing, a potential haven from the wind and snow. He carefully retrieved it, shaking off the heavy snow, and placed it on its side, creating a makeshift shelter, a small dark den that might offer the illusion of security. He then gently pushed the soft blanket inside, creating a warm, inviting nest, a promise of comfort. "Come on, Murphy," he coaxed, using the name he'd instinctively given the dog, a name that already felt right, a name that carried the weight of hope. "Just a little bit closer. It's warm in here. You'll be safe. You can trust me." He sat back on his heels, giving Murphy space, allowing the dog to approach on his own terms, without pressure, without force. The minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an hour, heavy with anticipation, with the silent plea of the storm. The snow continued to fall, relentless and heavy, threatening to bury them both, to erase their presence from the desolate landscape. Chris shivered, the cold now a deep ache in his bones, his muscles stiffening, but his determination was unwavering, a burning ember in his chest. He wasn't leaving. Not now. Not after coming this far. Not after witnessing Murphy's desperate struggle. Not after making that promise. Then it happened. The turning point. The moment that shifted everything. That broke the spell of fear. Murphy, after a long, tense moment of internal debate, a silent battle between instinct and desperation, slowly, tentatively, began to uncurl. His small head lifted, his eyes fixed on Chris, a silent question in their depths, a flicker of curiosity overcoming terror. He took one hesitant step, then another, dragging his matted fur through the snow, his tiny paws leaving faint imprints. He reached the edge of the cardboard box, sniffed cautiously, his nose twitching, assessing the new scent of safety, of warmth. And then, with a soft whimper of what sounded like pure, unadulterated relief, he crawled inside, burrowing deep into the soft blanket. It was a miracle, a tiny victory against overwhelming odds, a testament to the power of trust, a moment of profound breakthrough. Chris let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, a long, shaky exhale of pure relief, a weight lifted from his shoulders. "That's it, buddy," Chris whispered, his voice thick with emotion, a tremor of joy running through him. "You're safe now. You're finally safe. We did it." Murphy, once a rigid ball of fear, now relaxed, his small body visibly softening as the warmth of the blanket began to penetrate his frozen fur, thawing him from the inside out. His ears, which had been flattened against his head in terror, perked slightly, then swiveled, listening to the quiet sounds of the night, and a deep, shuddering sigh escaped his chest. It was the moment he realized he was being saved. Not harmed, not abandoned again, but truly rescued. His eyes, once wide with terror, softened, a flicker of understanding replacing the fear, a nascent spark of hope, a profound shift. His tail, which had been tucked tight against his body, gave a tentative, almost imperceptible wag, a fragile flag of burgeoning hope, a silent thank you, a promise of a future. Chris knew he couldn't leave Murphy in the box on the side of the road, even if it was a temporary haven. The next crucial step was getting him safely into the car, into true warmth and shelter. He moved slowly, gently, reaching into the box, his hand extended in a gesture of continued reassurance. Murphy tensed again, a fleeting memory of fear, but this time, instead of growling or recoiling, he leaned into Chris's touch, a tiny, trusting gesture that spoke volumes, a silent acceptance. Chris carefully scooped him up, blanket and all, holding him close, feeling the fragile warmth of the small body against his chest. Murphy was surprisingly light, his bones sharp beneath the matted fur, a stark, heartbreaking reminder of how close he had come to the end, how much he had suffered. He tucked Murphy securely into the passenger seat, wrapping the blanket tightly around him, creating a warm, safe cocoon, a sanctuary from the storm, a promise of a new beginning. The engine hummed to life, a comforting sound, the heater blasting warm air, slowly melting the last vestiges of ice from Murphy's fur. The little schnauzer, nestled deep in the blanket, shivered once more. But this time it was a shiver of release, of thawing, not cold. He looked up at Chris, his eyes now soft, almost sleepy. A profound sense of relief washing over his tiny face, a visible relaxation. The journey from the desolate roadside to the warmth and safety of the car was complete. The successful extraction was more than just a physical act. It was the undeniable beginning of a new life, a powerful testament to determination, compassion, and the enduring power of a second chance. Chris put the car in drive, slowly pulling back onto the snow-covered road. The blizzard raged outside, a furious white chaos, but inside, a quiet warmth had begun to bloom, a fragile hope taking root, a new chapter unfolding. The little schnauzer, Murphy, was safe. The rescue was done. But the transformation, the true miracle, was only just beginning. The drive to Chris's home was quiet, save for the gentle hum of the heater and the soft, rhythmic breathing of Murphy, now deeply, peacefully asleep in the passenger seat. The transformation was already remarkable, even in these first few minutes of safety. Gone was the rigid fear that had gripped Murphy, the constant trembling, the wide, haunted eyes, replaced by a profound softness in his posture, a subtle relaxation of his taut muscles. His eyes, once haunted by terror and desperation, now held a newfound clarity, a spark of life returning, reflecting the gentle glow of the dashboard lights, a promise of peace and contentment. He was no longer just a shivering, desperate creature clinging to life. He was a living, breathing being, finally finding a moment of true, unburdened peace, a sense of security he had never known. Upon arriving home, Chris carefully carried Murphy inside, the warmth of his house a stark, welcoming contrast to the biting cold and swirling snow outside. The scent of warm wood and old books filled the air, a comforting embrace. He gently placed the blanket-wrapped schnauzer on a soft, plush dog bed he quickly found in his closet, a relic from a previous beloved pet, now serving a new, vital purpose. Murphy stirred, his tiny nose twitching, taking in the new smells of warmth, safety, and the comforting scent of home, a symphony of new sensations. Chris then brought a bowl of fresh, cool water and a small plate of soft, wet dog food, placing them gently nearby, an offering of sustenance and care, a silent promise of nourishment. Murphy, initially hesitant, his instincts still wary, slowly lifted his head. He sniffed the food, then the water, his small tail giving a tentative, almost imperceptible wag, a tiny sign of burgeoning hope, a fragile acknowledgement. He began to drink, long, desperate gulps, his small body absorbing the much-needed hydration, then turned to the food, eating slowly at first, then with more urgency, as if afraid it would disappear, a memory of hunger still fresh and painful. This was an instant shift from despair to profound relief, almost unbelievable in its speed, a visible testament to the power of immediate care and kindness. Chris watched, a wave of profound relief washing over him, a quiet joy blooming in his chest, a sense of accomplishment. He could almost feel Murphy's gratitude, a silent thank you in every relaxed breath, in every soft, contented gaze, a bond forming without words. As Murphy ate, his entire demeanor continued to shift, evolving with each mouthful, each moment of safety. His ears, which had been flattened against his head in fear, now perked up, swiveling slightly as he listened to the quiet, comforting sounds of the house, the gentle ticking of a clock, the distant hum of the refrigerator. He no longer flinched at Chris's sudden movements. Instead, he tentatively nudged Chris's hand with his nose, seeking comfort, seeking connection. A soft whimper of contentment replacing his earlier growls and whimpers of distress. His body, once tense and rigid, now relaxed completely, sinking into the soft dog bed, a picture of utter peace, a profound surrender to safety. This was a visible, instant change, a remarkable transformation, a testament to the power of a safe environment and a kind, gentle touch, a true rebirth. Later that evening, as Chris settled on the floor with a warm blanket, engrossed in a book, the quiet hum of the house a comforting backdrop, Murphy, now fed, warm and rested, slowly, deliberately, crawled out of his bed. He padded over to Chris and with a soft sigh, rested his head on Chris's lap, a gesture of profound, undeniable trust, a silent declaration of allegiance. The warmth of Murphy's fur against Chris's leg was a tangible sign of the connection forming. A silent conversation of gratitude and acceptance, a bond solidifying with every shared breath, every quiet moment. Chris gently stroked Murphy's head, feeling the soft fur, the steady, peaceful beat of the dog's heart. Murphy sighed again, a deep, contented sound, and closed his eyes, drifting into a peaceful, deep sleep, utterly secure, utterly at home. This was the moment the bond truly began to solidify, to become something real and tangible, an unbreakable connection. The fear was gone, completely replaced by an unwavering sense of belonging, a deep-seated peace that radiated from him. Murphy, who had been abandoned and left for dead, was now safe, warm, and loved, his past fading into a distant nightmare, a forgotten shadow. Chris felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling far deeper and more profound than the heat from the fireplace. It was the warmth of knowing he had made a difference, of witnessing a life reborn, a spirit healed, a soul finding its place. The little schnauzer, once a symbol of despair and neglect, was now a beacon of hope, a living testament to the power of compassion and the enduring strength of the human-animal connection, a true miracle. Drop a comment telling us which moment of Murphy's rescue touched your heart the most. We want to know which part of this incredible journey moved you. The next morning, Murphy woke up, stretched luxuriously, his small body uncoiling with newfound energy, a picture of canine contentment. And then, instead of hiding or cowering, he padded over to Chris's side of the bed, nudging his hand with his nose, a gentle invitation to start the day. When Chris opened his eyes, Murphy's tail gave a tentative, happy wag, a clear sign of his newfound comfort and trust, a joyful greeting that brightened the room. He was no longer just a rescue. He was a companion, a friend, a cherished member of the family, a constant source of quiet joy. The transformation was not just physical, it was emotional, a complete, beautiful shift from a life of fear and uncertainty to one of profound relief, gratitude, and unconditional love, a true second chance. As the days turned into a week, and then two, Murphy's personality began to blossom, revealing a playful, affectionate spirit that had been hidden beneath layers of fear and neglect. He explored the house with a newfound confidence, his little tail wagging constantly, a blur of happy motion, discovering every nook and cranny. He would bring Chris his favorite squeaky toy, a small, worn tennis ball, dropping it at his feet, inviting him to play, his eyes bright with anticipation, a silent request for interaction. The quiet librarian, who had always found solace and companionship in the silent world of books, now found an even deeper, more vibrant joy in the playful antics and unwavering affection of his new companion, a joy that filled his home. The decision about permanent care was no longer a question, no longer a consideration. It was an undeniable truth, a certainty that settled deep in Chris's heart, a bond forged in kindness. Chris looked at Murphy, curled up on the sofa beside him, a picture of utter contentment, a small, furry embodiment of peace, a testament to the power of a safe home. He knew with absolute certainty that he couldn't let Murphy go. This little dog, who had stumbled into his life from the harsh grip of the cold, had filled a space Chris hadn't even known was empty, bringing a warmth and vibrancy he hadn't realized he was missing. A profound sense of completeness. Murphy was home. His forever home. The bond was sealed, not with words, but with countless shared moments of quiet companionship, playful joy, and profound unspoken understanding. A connection that transcended species. The transformation was complete, a testament to the power of a single act of compassion. Murphy, once a forgotten shadow, was now a vibrant, beloved member of Chris's family. Their journey, which began in the desolate grip of a snowstorm, had blossomed into a beautiful, enduring partnership, a story of hope and second chances. The quiet house, once filled only with the soft rustle of turning pages and the low hum of the refrigerator, now resonated with the happy pitter-patter of Murphy's paws, the occasional joyful bark, and the contented sighs of a dog finally at peace, finally safe. Murphy, once a trembling shadow, a ghost of a dog, now bounded through Chris's sun-drenched backyard, his miniature schnauzer fur gleaming, his tail a blur of joyous motion, a living testament to his rebirth. His once limping gait, a painful reminder of the cold and fear he had endured, was now a confident, playful stride, and his happy barks echoed with pure delight as he chased a frisbee, a picture of unadulterated contentment, a true embodiment of happiness. He was thriving, secure in his beloved home, a truly transformed soul, a testament to the power of a second chance, a miracle unfolding every single day, a joy to behold. Every evening, Murphy would curl up by Chris's feet as they watched TV, a soft purr-like rumble in his chest, his eyes half closed in pure contentment, completely at ease, utterly relaxed. The fear that had once consumed him was entirely gone, replaced by an unwavering sense of belonging and peace that radiated from his small body. He no longer startled at sudden noises. Instead, he would simply lift his head, his ears twitching, then settle back down, completely at ease, trusting his surroundings implicitly, knowing he was safe. His playful nips were gentle, his cuddles abundant, and his presence a constant source of quiet joy and profound comfort for Chris, a silent, loving companion. This was lasting happiness, a deep, abiding peace, a testament to the profound impact of compassion and unconditional love, a bond that grew stronger with each passing day. Chris often found himself smiling, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached his eyes as he watched Murphy explore, play, or simply nap in a patch of warm sunlight, a scene of pure domestic bliss. The little dog had brought so much light, so much life, so much unexpected joy into his quiet, orderly world, transforming it in ways he never imagined. Murphy was not just rescued, he was truly reborn. A vibrant, happy dog, living the life he so richly deserved. A life filled with warmth, safety, and boundless affection. A true success story. Their story was a powerful reminder that even in the bleakest, most desperate circumstances, hope can emerge. A light can pierce the darkness, and an unbreakable bond can form, turning strangers into family, transforming lives forever, leaving an indelible mark. This story of Chris and Murphy is more than just a narrative. It is a beacon of hope, a testament to the incredible, transformative power of human kindness and the indomitable resilience of the animal spirit. It shows us unequivocally that a single act of compassion, a moment of courage, can create a profound ripple effect, transforming not just one life, but two, intertwining destinies in the most beautiful way, creating a bond that will last an eternity. It reminds us that heroes walk among us every day, often in the most ordinary of professions, in the most unexpected places, and that second chances are not just possible, but are waiting to be given, waiting to be embraced, waiting to change lives. Like this story, if it touched your heart, if it filled you with hope, if it reminded you of the good in the world, subscribe to Eternal Bonds for more incredible rescues, for more stories of courage, compassion, and transformation. And please, share this with someone who believes in second chances, who believes in the power of love, and who understands the profound connection between humans and animals. Your support helps us share more life-changing content and inspire more acts of compassion around the globe, spreading hope one rescue at a time. Our next rescue story proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that miracles happen when compassion meets courage. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it, as another life is rescued and reborn.